So today we will discuss the different concepts like what is karma kanda, what is jnana kanda, what is karma yoga, what is jnana yoga. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Putra Shrimati Radhanath Swami Niti Namni Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Putra Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namni Namam Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharan Nivadi Bhasha Desh Tarani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Ishta Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Jai Jagannath Baldev Subhadramani Sudarshan Chakra ki Jai Jai Ho Subhada Devi ki Jai Jai Ho Sandhini Samvit Ladini Shakti ki Jai Jai Ho Samvit Shakti ki Jai. So here we will understand what is the difference between different kinds of sections. Like for example, what is karma kanda, what is jnana kanda, what is karma yoga, what is jnana yoga, and then what is bhakti yoga, what is nishkama karma mishra bhakti yoga, sakama karma mishra bhakti yoga, jnana mishra bhakti yoga, and how it develops into ruchi, asakti, and bhava, nishta, which are pure devotional service. And out of this, asakti is anya abhilashita shunya. Okay, so let's go systematically in this point. So basically, if you see, karma kanda is basically targeting bhukti. Bhukti means pleasure, gain, or some kind of enjoyment, basically. So there is no falatyaga. Sarva falatyaga is not there, basically. That is not there in karma kanda. They want the results of their activities. So when they do karma kandic activities, they want the results either in the form of spiritual results, not spiritual, heavenly or Vedic results, where you get heaven as the highest place of pleasure. Or in the material world, when you do all this work for your own enjoyment and you get some kind of results. So that kind of work can be known as karma, which is not actually vikarma, but at least it is karma. So that thing which gives you basically pleasure, which you are doing. The phala is the pleasure, the ultimate gain that you want. So that is karma kandic activities. And jnana kanda is mukti. This is bhukti, this is mukti. Now what is mukti? Mukti basically is freedom from pain. So if you categorize the entire existence of human beings, it is the whole purpose, struggle for existence is for two things. One is to gain pleasure and the second thing is to avoid pain. So the avoiding pain part is jnana kanda. After millions of lifetimes of karma kanda and enjoying, when they find there is no pleasure actually in the material world, so they want to only understand there is pain in the material world. So they want to get out of the pain of the material world through Upanishads and Upanishadic jnana kanda and everything. Renunciation is one of the things. Impersonalism is one of the co-commitment reactions from this. So Shankaracharya, all the renunciates, they go towards jnana kanda, mukti. After having all the understanding of bhukti, now they want to go towards mukti, relief from pain. Pleasure is already, they have tried it, it's useless. Now they want to get relief from pain, and that is how jnana kanda section of the Vedas and the Upanishadic part of the Vedas, where you understand about renunciation. So renunciation is the primary part of jnana kanda, where you understand the universe. What is this universe? It's full of pain. How to get out of this universe? These relations, everything is false. Everything is kind of temporary. To understand the temporary nature of the material and aim towards mukti or impersonal Brahman liberation is the jnana kanda. So Krishna transforms this. Actually, he says, where is the origin of all these things? He says karma yoga and jnana yoga are things that we should do. So what is karma yoga and what is jnana yoga? So if you see in Krishna saying in karma yoga, the primary and the most important thing in karma yoga is sarva karma falatyaga. Yeah, renunciation of fruits of activities. That is the core essence of karma yoga. Now we understand that in all the other things that we'll discuss, like ruchi, asakti, karma yoga is default. It's there already. So when acharyas look at karma yoga, they will say it's all Krishna consciousness, because Krishna consciousness mein karma yoga is involved. So Prabhupada, Sridhar Swami, all the acharyas, when they look at karma yoga, they will say, this is definitely included in the Krishna conscious practice. Because Krishna consciousness definitely includes karma yoga, but karma yoga need not include Krishna consciousness or bhakti. Karma yoga does not include bhakti. So karma yoga is karma yoga and bhakti is bhakti. But bhakti includes karma yoga. So that's why when the acharyas look at karma yoga, they say, it's Krishna consciousness, surrender to Krishna, everything is there. Do all your work for Krishna. So when they look at this, they will definitely see karma yoga as bhakti yoga only, because Sandhini Samvit Ladini Desi, as we said in the previous videos, a pure devotee, Vasudevam Sarvamiti. He will definitely understand this whole concept as, because it is already included in Bhakti Yoga. So Karma Yoga, there is no need for performing of any form of Karma Yoga. Basically, a person who has already received Agyata Sukriti or the seed of Bhakti, this is meaningless. Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga basically has no particular meaning in the context. So therefore, they will always say that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate thing, and Bhakti Yoga is included. Karma Yoga means Bhakti Yoga only, they will say. So, because ultimately you have to do the work for Krishna. So that way they will say. So we have to understand very clearly what is the concept of this whole idea of karma yoga. So and similarly, Jnana Yoga is Krishna is saying that through transcendental knowledge, try to find out the source of everything. He's saying. So in this Jnana Kanda, the whole idea was to escape from the miseries of the material world. Here he is saying that again with try to find out the source, but without that aim of trying to escape from the material world. So that is phala for this. Mukti is the phala and bhukti is the phala for karma kanda. So both of them you renounce, and when you renounce the phala for this, your own sense gratification or your own ulterior motives, when you renounce for this, it becomes karma yoga and jnana yoga. In karma yoga, let us focus more on karma yoga, because ultimately jnana yoga is to understand more and more about the supreme personality of Godhead, the sankhya system of this material world, what is the material world, with the whole idea of understanding, so that you can finally come to the source, understand the source of everything. But here the whole idea of jnana kanda is to get out of the material world, mukti. So that kind of thing is there in karma, and karma kanda is also like that, to get some bhukti. So karma yoga means sarva phalatyaga. In jnana yoga also, from the purpose of jnana yoga is to find out, not to get out of the material world. So that way the jnana yoga also phalatyaga is there. So yoga means phalatyaga basically. So the whole idea is for connecting with the Lord. Here it is not about connecting. This is to disconnect ourselves from the material world and and here to connect ourselves to Swarga and heavenly pleasures and all pleasures. But here it is connecting yourselves to the Lord through yoga. So what is Lord? The one supreme Lord. Just like Gajendra didn't know who the supreme Lord is. So in karma yoga, the person does not know who is Krishna. So this is very important. In karma yoga, just like Gajendra was offering prayers after prayers to Krishna, but he had no idea who Krishna was, whether this is Krishna or Vishnu. He had no idea. So ultimately, the whole purpose of karma yoga is to for Vishnu Priti, it is to surrender everything to the Lord. That is definitely there. That is ultimate purpose. But the performer himself at that point doesn't know. That is why it becomes karma yoga. He is doing sarva karma phala tyaga. So the whole concept of karma yoga is you don't get attached to the results of your activities. Offer that to the supreme yajna. Krishna calls it yajna, sacrifice. So what is yajna? It's all that which is prescribed in the Vedas is yajna basically. So ultimately the goal of Vedas is to go to Vishnu or to satisfy Krishna in loving devotional service, in priti. That is ultimate goal of yajna. But the performer himself does not know. He just like a very pious king is there right now, and the king does not know that the ultimate goal of performing his kingly duties like fighting and protecting the citizens is to ultimately please Vishnu. He has no concept of Vishnu at this point of time. He has no concept of Krishna at this point of time. There is no thought process of that. But he knows that it is for the Vedas I am doing it, for Varnashrama Dharma I am doing it, for my spiritual masters and all the Brahmanas I am doing it. For that concept, when he starts renouncing the fruits of his activities for the higher cause of yajna, for the cause of Vedic instructions, maybe yajna, or there are different types of yajna which Krishna also says, there are different types of yajnas to attaining knowledge as the result of the yajna, to attain this thing, to attain so they all sacrifice, this is the brahmacharis, the varnashram systems, everybody, they sacrifice that for yajna. Yajna means for the higher cause. And just like the four Kumaras themselves didn't know. See, because the point is, neither in the Karma Kanda sections of the Vedas, neither the Jnana Kanda sections, Krishna is directly, the bhakti for Krishna is hidden actually. So only by Agyata Sukriti can you get bhakti. By studying Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, you cannot get bhakti. It is not possible because Krishna is hidden in that. You will not find that ultimate goal of everything is bhakti ultimately, and you have to surrender to Krishna. And so anybody who does Karma Kanda ultimately understands that and surrenders to Krishna. It doesn't happen like that because these things are hidden inside. Krishna has Vedic knowledge is hidden in it is mentioning, but indirectly and like that, things like that. It is mentioning like that. So directly the Karma Yogi who's actually just graduated from the Karma Kanda section, the Jnana Kanda section, these people, the Karma Yogis, they are just doing everything for the sake of Shastras, for the sake of ultimate truth. Just like the four Kumaras, they didn't know that it is Vishnu, who is the supreme, ultimate supreme. Even Bhrigu Muni didn't know who is the ultimate supreme. So all these people, even the Sukadeva Goswami, the impersonalists. So even at these levels, at the highest levels, those people had no idea that it is Krishna that you have to surrender to, it is Vishnu that you have to surrender to, that they didn't have an idea. So their whole idea is yajna. Yajna means for the ultimate cause of the Vedic Shastras, for the that which is mentioned in the Vedas to promote the ultimate destination. So they know there is something supreme in this universe. Just like Gajendra, he knew that someone supreme is there, but he didn't know it is Vishnu or Krishna. He was praying, please take me out. In the same way, a Karma Yogi, he is renouncing the fruits of action or dedicating his fruits of action. He is not attached to the fruits of action. So he is not attached to the fruits of action. He is dedicating the fruits of action for the higher cause. And that higher cause is the Vedic cause. And that Vedic cause or the spiritual master cause or any kind of cause which he has. So he had no idea about Krishna. So the very important thing is he has no idea of Krishna. Karma Yogi does not have an idea of Krishna. That is the most core thing. Otherwise everything will go wrong. If you start thinking that Karma Yogi already knows about Krishna, then you will start have a very skewed definition of Bhakti Yoga. You will start offending the Bhakti Yogis if you say like that. So Karma Yogi does not have. That's why it is Karma Yoga. So that is very clearly mentioned. So we'll cover the shlokas also, because when a person starts knowing that it is Krishna that I have to surrender my works to, that it comes in the chapter of Bhakti Yoga. That is the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So it is no longer in the Karma Yoga section of the Bhagavad Gita. So in this Karma Yoga section, Nishkama Karma Yoga and Sakama Karma Yoga is there. So both have renounced their fruits of action. So what is this Sakama? So why is this Nishkama and what is Sakama Karma Yoga? Both have renounced the fruits of action. So Sakama Karma means he likes doing his work. For example, a king, he likes doing his work of a king. He wants to do the work of a king because he enjoys the pleasure that is of Kshatriya. His nature is like a Kshatriya, so he enjoys that work of a Kshatriya. So because he's enjoying that work, although the fruits of the results of the work, the kingdom, everything he is dedicating to Krishna. So, but he's enjoying the works of his fruits of his work. He's enjoying not the fruits of his work. He's enjoying the work itself. So that's why there is Sakama. The Kama is there because he's enjoying the work. That Sakama is there in that. So that's why Sakama Karma Falatyaga is still there. The result, whatever is coming, is completely offering to Krishna. He is not accepting any of the results. But the work itself is pleasing to him. So it's Sakama. Whereas Nishkama Karma Yoga is the person is just doing it out of duty. Neither is attached to the fruits of the thing, neither is attached to the work itself. So it doesn't matter whether he wants to be a king or anything. He can do any work for the higher cause. So he's not attached to being a king or attached to being a particular thing. So that way. So both have renounced the fruits of their actions, but one person enjoys doing his work, another person has no attachment to his work at all. So Nishkama Karma Yoga means he has no, and Sakama Karma Yoga means he has no attached to the fruits. But work, he is liking it. But here he's not attached to neither the fruits nor to the work. So that is Nishkama and Sakama Karma Yoga. Now we come to Bhakti Yoga. In Bhakti Yoga, the person who is doing the work knows that he is doing it for Krishna. The moment he knows that he is doing, so you know what is the definition of Bhakti Yoga? 9 type of Bhakti Yoga. Smarana, Kirtana, Shravana, Kirtana, Smarana, Vandana, Pada Sevana, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So this 9 types of devotional service means Bhakti Yoga. 100% is Bhakti Yoga. So it cannot be called as Karma Yoga. Once you enter this 9 type of devotional service, you can't say it's Karma Yoga. That is offense to Bhakti Yogi. If you say, even though he is performing, so that can be Mishra Bhakti, but it is to be Bhakti only. So in this case, the Bhakti Yoga, the moment he knows that, the king knows now that I am doing this work for Krishna, for Vishnu, the moment he is aware, that performer is aware, Smarana comes into picture. The moment the Smarana comes, till now he had no Smarana. In Karma Yoga, he had no Smarana. That Smarana was not there. Just like Sridhar Swami Maharaj says in the Ajamala Kanda, that Smarana must have been there, even while calling out the holy name. Because by default, when you call out the holy name, Smarana automatically comes. So the moment so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, even though he is calling out without remembering the Lord, even then he was not actually calling, he was actually just calling out. Both are saying the same thing. What Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, that holy name is independent. Even if you just chant the holy name, Smarana is by default. And Sridhar Swami is saying that when he chanted the holy name, what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that, he is saying that even without remembering the Lord, without Smarana also, the holy name itself liberated Jamil. Holy name is so powerful. And Sridhar Swami is saying the holy name is so powerful that Smarana was default. That he had to do Smarana. Smarana, without Smarana, the holy name actually forced him to do Smarana. Even though he didn't think about. So when we are doing Japa, we are thinking about something else. But still we are thinking about Krishna. Even indirectly, 10-20% is still there. So you can't say that I was not thinking at all. Because the holy name is so powerful, Smarana is default. So both are glorifying holy name. Sridhar Swami as well as Vishwanath. Although they look at their opposite directions. So in the same way, the moment the Bhakti Yogi knows, the moment the Karma Yogi knows that I am doing this for Krishna, the Falatyaga I am doing this for Krishna, for Vishnu, the moment he is aware, actually he is doing it for Krishna only, for Preeti only, for Vishnu only, he is doing everything for that, but he was not aware at that point. The moment he is aware of that point, that was indirect initially, now it's direct, he knows that he is doing it for Krishna. The moment he knows that I am doing Kirtan for Krishna, I am doing Prasad for Krishna, I am cooking for Krishna, the moment he knows he is doing for Krishna, Smarana comes into picture. And it is 9 type of Bhakti, so it's Bhakti Yoga. So it is not Karma Yoga. So don't say that a devotee, some definitions go like this actually, with all respect to the devotees. They say that if you do what you like and then you offer that to Krishna, it is Karma Yoga. But if you do what Krishna likes, whether you like it or not, that is Bhakti Yoga. So it is nothing to do with like that. The 9 type of Bhakti is Bhakti Yoga, basically. And then if you have this definition, then a devotee who loves to cook for Krishna, that will be your Karma Yoga. You'll call that devotee karma yoga. It's offense to a devotee. It's a high sort of offense. If I say a devotee who loves to cook for Krishna and he loves to offer it to Krishna and he just loves that cooking only. He doesn't like any other activity. He just loves cooking. But there is no ulterior motive. His pure thing is he wants to do it for Krishna and he loves it. Then you call him a karma yogi because he is doing what he likes for Krishna. That is completely a person who has not understood. I'm sorry, it's not like that, but there may be differences of opinion. So my opinion is very clear, and this Shastra also is very clear in this. Bhagavad Gita, everything is clear because he's yagya. Krishna is very smart. He uses the word yagya in that place, and the other place he uses mam. In the 9th chapter, he uses mam. Sarva karma phala mam, for me. So when he uses me, that becomes bhakti yoga. Clearly, it in the 9th chapter. He puts it that in the 9th chapter. Yat karoshi, yat ajna. So in that context, he says me. So whereas in the 3rd chapter of karma yoga, he says yagya for the sake of yagya. Very clear. So he could have said me also in that. Why didn't he say me, Krishna? Because he clearly knew that the person is not knowing who is the Supreme Lord. Just like the 4 Kumaras didn't know. Just like Gajendra didn't know. Just like Sukadeva. Impersonalism. So at this point they didn't know. So that they were sacrificing the fruits for Krishna. Although it was ultimately going for the loving service of Krishna. But they didn't know that. And when the acharyas look at the karma yoga, they know that the yagya is Vishnu because they are looking from the perspective of bhakti yoga. They know that when you are doing this bhakti yoga, it is the karma yoga. When Krishna is saying renounce the fruits of activity, which is also there in bhakti yoga. So they are saying that is bhakti yoga because in bhakti yoga also renunciation of fruits of activity is there. So that part is bhakti yoga. So in bhakti yoga, karma yoga is default. So they are saying that in bhakti yoga also this is bhakti only. Yeah, that is bhakti only, correct? Because bhakti yoga, when you are looking at it, has got karma yoga inside default. So all these things are there. So if you say that a devotee is attached to his service, like he loves to do Bhagavatam Pravachan, he loves to do, so he'll select a spiritual master or somebody who loves to do their Bhagavatam, and then he will also try to do Shastric knowledge. And then you say that no, that because he did what he wanted to do, what he liked to do, and then he offered it to Krishna. That is offense to that devotee, if I think like that. Because he loves to do that activity doesn't mean that has nothing to do with Bhakti Yoga. Krishna is not some kind of dictator or autocrat who is saying that because you loved it, now it is no longer Bhakti Yoga. Forget it. You will not go back to Godhead. Because Karma Yoga, you can't go back to Godhead. They say you have to, even moksha is not possible through Karma Yoga. Some people say like that. In that case, then you will say that what is the point? Then so you should, whatever we say you should do that. So that is not the kind of understanding of, it's completely, so then you will be offending the Vaishnavas because you will say that anybody who likes doing his service, that is not correct. No, he will do his service. Even though he doesn't like, he will do it. That is later stage also is there for that also. But it is Bhakti Yoga, 100% Bhakti Yoga. When you when you are doing anything for Krishna, and you are thinking of Krishna, Smarana is involved. Anything that makes you, Rupa Goswami defines, anything by which you can think about Krishna, and Anukulya, whatever is you are making you think about Krishna, that you should do. Whatever makes you forget Krishna, that you should not do. That is the basic premise of Bhakti Yoga itself. So if you, then there will be Mishraka Bhakti and all those things may be there, but it is Bhakti Yoga, it's not Karma Yoga. The moment the Smarana part is there, moment you know that you are doing it for Krishna. So whatever activity you are doing, so that is not Karma Yoga, it is Bhakti Yoga only. So this has to be very clear in this, and we will substantiate this systematically in all the, later on also we will make a video, and this video will substantiate some of the 4 points of the Bhagavad Gita itself. So in Bhakti Yoga, there is 2. One is Nishkama Karma Mishra Bhakti Yoga, and Sakama Karma Mishra Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Mishra Bhakti Yoga. So what is Nishkama Karma Mishra Bhakti Yoga? So now there is a definition has changed. You know what happens in this, if you understand in Karma Yoga, the phala of the karma is been given. So what happens, the kama part is because he loves to do that activity. Like the king loves to, do his activity of a Kshatriya. So that is the kama part. Okay, sa kama. Kama is the activity is giving him pleasure. But in Bhakti Yoga, if the activity gives him pleasure, for example, if he is cooking for Krishna and the activity of cooking gives him pleasure for Krishna, that cannot be kama. So that cannot be sakama karma yoga. That forget karma yoga, it's not possible only. It cannot be called sakama. So the kama cannot come from the activity itself. So here the activity of ruling over the king, over the citizens, that is giving him pleasure. So that because that activity is very mundane in nature, so that because that mundane activity gives him pleasure, that is kama, sakama. But whereas cooking for Krishna, the activity of cooking for Krishna gives him pleasure. That is spiritual pleasure. Why that activity is giving him spiritual pleasure? Anything connected to Krishna is spiritual. For example, somebody may like japa, chanting the holy name. So there may be some taste in the holy name. He may be getting some kind of taste. So if that is the pure taste, if he is getting taste for by chanting the holy name, and that is not sakama karma mishra bhakti or sakama karma yoga, nothing of that sort. That is purely ruchi. Ruchi has two stages. One is when the activity is done perfectly and when the activity is done imperfectly. When the activity is done perfectly, like for example, very nice music is going on, all the musical instruments are done in a nice way, then because of the spiritual music is giving him pleasure. So that is the lower stage of ruchi. It's a very advanced stage of devotional service. It's nothing to do with karma yoga, nothing to do with sakama karma mishra and all these things. This is a pure form of devotional service, ruchi, where he is getting taste for performing the devotion. He is getting taste in speaking about Bhagavatam. He is getting taste in reading the Shastras. He is getting taste in all those things. Like Bhagavad Gita is giving him taste. So that lower stage of taste is when the things are done in a nice way. When a nice speaker speaks Bhagavad Gita, when a great speaker speaks, then that gives him taste. And that taste is spiritual in nature. It is not material nature. So that is ruchi. So even sometimes at advanced stage of ruchi, even though the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by a not very great speaker, the kirtan is not done in a very nice way, still is getting pleasure. So that is an advanced stage of ruchi. So lower stage of ruchi, everything has to be done in a nice way. Advanced stage of ruchi, everything has to be done in a perfect way. Nice music, perfect music, then I like kirtan. Otherwise I won't like kirtan that much. But that is two stages of ruchi, which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhurya Kadamani also specifies. So that is ruchi. That is not sakama karma yoga, karma bhash. That is pure uttama bhakti ka stage. That is one of the uttama bhakti stage. It is not even mishra bhakti stage. It is uttama bhakti stage, because he has only one devotion, that he is getting pleasure from the activity of devotional service. But here the missing part is he is not getting pleasure from Krishna's pleasure. That is the only thing that is missing, which is there in Asakti, which will come to later. So because the kama part of the karma yoga, in the kama part, what is the point is that the activity is giving him pleasure, and the activity is mundane. It is karma. So that's why this is kama. When the king loves to do management, because he's a Kshatriya, he loves management, and because he's not doing it for Krishna, he has no idea of Krishna, it's kama. So now when you say sakama karma mishra bhakti, how come? So in this thing, the kama part is not the pleasure that he is getting from the activity of cooking for Krishna. For example, if he's cooking for Krishna, if he's getting pleasure from cooking, that pleasure from cooking is not sakama, because that is purely transcendental pleasure that he's getting from Krishna's service. So that is not sakama, that is ruchi. So what is sakama? Sakama means he is getting pleasure not from cooking, but from appreciation of other Vaishnavas. For example, if a person is doing kirtan and he is not getting pleasure from the kirtan itself, he is not actually focused on the kirtan. He is not getting the pleasure from the kirtan, but from the appreciation. Some Mataji or Prabhuji is looking at him, and he is getting appreciation from those Mataji or Prabhuji, and he wants to impress them. And if that impression, so that part of impression becomes kama. So the activity of pleasure that is getting from the kirtan, that is not kama, that is ruchi. So that this kama part is the external thing. For example, he wants to get appreciation from that other person. So that becomes sakama karma mishra bhakti. So now if you understand, this is actually looks inferior to this, because here he has done sarva phala tyaga. The phala has been tyagada. But in this case, a devotee is not even doing phala tyaga, because the phala is there. 10% phala he wants. That phala is that I want appreciation from the Mataji. That is phala. So here when you say sakama karma mishra bhakti, the phala is also not tyaga, is not done here, which is there in the lower stage. But still this is higher, because the bhakti part is there, because the Navavidhi bhakti is there. That is the glory of bhakti. Even though it is done imperfectly with all faults, even though this is done perfectly with phala tyaga, but still without phala tyaga also this bhakti yoga is superior. Even though he's designing a phala, he wants money or he wants something, he wants some kind of gratification for himself. So sakama is there, and that sakama is not from the activity itself, but from the something else other than the activity, like impressing a Mataji from the kirtan. That is a sakama. But that is the phala. The phala has not been tyagada. So the phala has not been renounced, but still that is superior to this kind of sakama karma mishra bhakti. So even the phala of that is given out, then it becomes nishkama karma mishra bhakti. Now what is nishkama? In nishkama karma mishra bhakti, he has no taste in the devotional activity. He has no taste in kirtan or japa. He's just doing it because his authorities have told him to do this. That's all. That's my job. Any job you give me, I'll do that job. No problem. So, but I am not doing it for Krishna. I don't have any idea of pleasing Krishna. I know Krishna. I know I'm doing for Krishna and everything, but I don't neither am I getting taste, nor am I getting feelings towards Krishna, nor I am doing it for to please Krishna with the intention. But just I'm doing so my authorities are doing to please the whatever. I like the system and everything. I want to be a part of the system. Therefore, I want to please those people, and therefore I just want to do it as a duty, as a matter of duty. Sattva guna. I'm just doing it. I'm neither getting taste from the activity itself, nor from the nor I'm getting a taste from Krishna's pleasure. When Krishna is smiling, then I get taste. That is asakti. That is very high stage. Neither I'm getting taste in activity of doing kirtan itself, because that is ruchi. That is also not there. So it becomes nishkama karma mishra bhakti. Just for the sake of duty, I'm doing japa. I have to do, no Prabhuji, kya karne ka? I have to do japa every day. What to do? We just have to do. Somehow I'm doing it. So sometimes we offend the japa also. We look at there, we look here, and we do all these things. That is nishkama karma mishra kind of bhakti is happening here. And when I'm doing it for the Mataji kirtan, so I want to impress her that kama is phala. The phala is also not tyaga, is not given up here. But still it is superior because it's bhakti yoga. And sakama karma mishra bhakti yoga. Then jnana mishra bhakti. Jnana mishra, if you see the whole purpose of, so again, if you see the phala in karma, in this part, the karma kanda part is there. So karma kanda means I want bhukti, or I want some gain. That is karma. Sakama karma mishra bhakti. And jnana means mukti. So what is the purpose of jnana mishra bhakti? Prabhuji, this material world is so horrible. You have to understand. Go deep into the material world and study it. You will find that this is all false, illusion. It's so painful. It's all painful. Padam padam yat vipadam. It's dukkhalayam. I have to get out of this world. So the whole idea of getting out of the world is not to go to Krishna and serve him and do, but the getting out of the world is all about, I want to get out of the miseries of this world. I have to, this material world is horrible. You have to understand, Prabhuji, understand. They are always focused on the miseries of the material world. Oh, there is so much kama, there is so much krodha, all my negativity, so much things are there. We have to get out of this, it's painful. Kama is painful, krodha is painful. They know that it's painful. So their whole idea of doing bhakti is to get out of the material world, That's the whole focus, not to please Krishna, not to get any pleasure from it. So their very, very strong faith is there because of their strong understanding. They keep on studying the shastras and understanding. Their conviction is so strong. Extremely strong conviction is there in Jnana Mishra Bhakti. I have to get out of this material world, so I have to. So they don't make many friendship with devotees, nothing. They are not very people who are very friendly people, because they are just whole focus is I want to get out of the material. That's why I come to this world. So their whole idea is that only. So they do devotion to, they try to study the shastras, try to understand the world, because they want to get out of the world. So they don't make many friends. Devotee friends are not there in Jnana Mishra Bhaktas. So they just are focused on how to get out. They come to the temple and they are loners, mostly loner people. They don't want to mix with anybody. And they just want to just understand. They have no appreciation for much devotees also. They don't have much understanding of, but they have very strong, firm conviction and faith that I have to get out of the material world. That firm conviction. Now these things, as you do devotional service, this becomes spiritual. Now, as you know, the highest in the spiritual world is the lowest in the material world. So we'll go exactly opposite. So sakama becomes the highest, that is asakti. And nishkama becomes the ruchi. And jnana becomes nishtha. So how this happens? Actually, of course, it's not that sakama becomes, any sakama will become asakti. No. So sakama will go to nishkama mostly, or he will become a jnana. After nishkama, he will go to jnana mishra bhakta, and then from jnana mishra bhakta, ruchi he will get. From ruchi he will get asakti. So the whole process is not like this. Like sakama he will go to asakti. No. This is the reflection of asakti. A perverted reflection of asakti is what I am trying to say. Sakama has to go to nishkama, or mostly he will go to some kind of, if he is fortunate enough, by doing kirtan itself, he will go back to God. He will get asakti also. That is very rare. But if otherwise the general process is from shakama he has to become nishkama, from that he has to go to jnana mishra bhakti, from jnana mishra bhakti he has to go to ruchi, and from that he has to go to asakti. This is the general stage. So now in sakama, but is a reflection of asakti. Why is it a reflection of asakti? Because in sakama the whole idea is, why am I playing mridanga? No, I am not interested in mridanga. I am interested in the Mataji. That Mataji, I want to impress that. So that is why I am playing my mridanga. My whole focus is just to play. I can do anything. I can do mridanga, I can do singing, I can do anything. But the whole idea is to please that people. Those people should be appreciating me. So those people are my main focus. That is sakam. Now replace that people or that Mataji with Krishna. So in asakti stage, the whole idea is to please Krishna. Just like a boy wants to please a girl, a devotee wants to please Krishna in Asakti stage. So he doesn't care what activity he wants to do, whether it is cleaning the temple, whether it is playing mridanga, whether it is playing kartal, or whether he is giving lecture, whether he is cleaning the toilets. He has no, because the whole activity itself he's not a main focus. His main focus is to impress the girl, or not the girl, to impress Krishna in this case. Replace the girl with Krishna. So his whole idea is to impress that. Just like we play badminton, but you're looking at who is looking at me when I'm playing badminton. Similarly, he's always thinking, oh, I'm doing this, but Krishna is looking at me right now. Krishna is happy with me right now. So he's just thinking about Krishna 24/7. He's just thinking how to please Krishna and how Krishna is happy with my activity and everything. So he's got attached to Krishna. Extreme strong attachment to Krishna is there, and activity itself is not giving him much pleasure. As much pleasure is coming from the Krishna smile from that activity. So that is asakti. And nishkama karma mishra bhakti becomes ruchi. Means in nishkama karma, he is basically just doing it as a sort of duty. It is not to please any person, but he's just doing it because just to do the work itself, he's doing the work. Similarly, in ruchi, he's doing the work just for the sake of work. Like for example, he just loves reading Bhagavad Gita. He loves cooking for Krishna because there is a taste in the cooking itself. But not he's not thinking that he's not trying to please Krishna, or he's not attached to Krishna. He just loves the Bhagavad Gita itself. I love Bhagavad Gita, I love Shastras. Maybe he's not even thinking of Krishna too much, but he's loving the activity. I love Kirtan, I love Japa, I love all these things. So the activity itself, he's just focused on the activity itself, and he's doing the activity for the sake of activity. Of course, here it has a different meaning. Say activity for the sake of activity means he's not getting the taste, spiritual taste in the activity. Sake of activity, duty. But here he's doing the activity for the sake of activity, but here he's getting taste from the activity, spiritual taste. That spiritual taste is making him do the activity. But still, as Prabhupada says, there is some sense gratification in there. But of course, that is spiritual taste. There is nothing to do with material taste. Because it is spiritual in nature, but still there is some sense gratification. Like, I am getting pleasure, spiritual pleasure from this activity. When that is renounced, when that thing goes, and when he becomes he's just interested in Krishna's pleasure, just whatever Krishna is making Krishna happy, I'm happy. That he transforms into attachment to Krishna, asakti. That becomes anya abhilashita shunya. Now I'll tell you why anya, because jnana karma anavritam already includes this nishkama, sakama, all this jnana and karma anavritam. These three stages are anavritam in the definition of uttama bhakti. Anya abhilashita shunya jnana karma anavritam. In the previous devotion, this thing also we have said this. Jnana karma anavritam anukulyena Krishna anushilanam bhaktir uttama. So if you see, in that jnana karma anavrita means any kind of bhakti which is done for gaining any kind of pleasure, or any kind of karma means any kind of pleasure. Either it's a duty pleasure that I'm getting because I'm doing some duty, it's a duty, so I should do it, or sakama karma, or jnana mishra bhakti. Any kind of karma or jnana, if it is mixed. So any kind of pleasure I'm getting from bhakti, or any kind of pain I'm trying to avoid by doing bhakti. So if I want to get out of pain, or if I want some kind of pleasure, so we have also discussed Draupadi and all the cases where they were not trying to get out of pain, but they want to, when they were calling out to Krishna, their whole intention was, oh Krishna, let him become the hero of Mahabharata. So I want to make him the hero because Krishna loves to be hero. So if I call out for Krishna, he will become the hero and he will be glorified. That was and when the Krishna's friends were saying that Krishna, I want to eat the tala fruits, they were not saying that it was not Mishra Bhakti. They were saying that if I let Krishna go and fight with that demon, and then Krishna will become a hero, he will enjoy it. For Krishna's enjoyment, I am doing it. So their whole pure devotees, Nitya Siddhas, don't think about in these terms, that when they call out for Krishna for saving themselves, it is not to save themselves that they are calling out for Krishna. That is not pure devotion service. Rakho bhi maro bhi jo ichha tumhara. That is pure devotion service. So they are not calling out for Krishna at this point. What they are calling out is, they are calling out to Krishna so that Krishna becomes the hero of the movie. So everybody says, wow, Krishna is coming. Krishna becomes very happy. No, I'll now do heroic deeds. So Krishna wants to do heroic deeds. So they want to encourage. So for that, Draupadi is ready to be disrobed millions of times. She wants to come to this material world again and again. Kunti Maharani wants pain again and again. If you understand this point, it is not for liberation. Kunti Maharani is saying that I'll get liberated. No, she's already a success potency of Krishna. So the internal reason is Kunti Maharani is saying, let the pain come again and again, so that Krishna becomes the hero and Krishna enjoys. Even though it is my pain, let Krishna enjoy. That is the mood of a pure Nitya Siddha devotee of Krishna. So here we understand that. So when jnana karma anavritam has happened, okay, so there is no kind of pleasure and there is no kind of escape from any pain. So what else is remaining? Everything is covered in jnana karma anavritam. So why anya abhilashita? What other abhilasha can I have other than jnana karma? Like any kind of pleasure is not there. Any kind of this thing is also not there, anartha is also not there, nothing. I mean there is no pleasure that I want from devotion, and there is no kind of pain that I want to avoid by doing devotion. So everything is covered. Why again anya abhilasha? What that abhilasha could be? What kind of abhilasha? Because pleasure is not there. What abhilasha do I have? What abhilasha? If it's money, then again it's jnana karma. Now money, if I want money from devotion, it's sakama karma mishra bhakti karma again. So if I want to get out of pain, it's jnana again. So if I say what abhilasha could I have? That abhilasha cannot be a material abhilasha. It has to be a spiritual abhilasha. So therefore, so anya abhilasha shunya, the spiritual abhilasha, the ruchi is the spiritual taste I am getting from that. Even that sense gratification, Prabhupada says that is also sense gratification, but it's not material sense gratification, spiritual sense gratification. It's like the taste that you get from pure taste that you get from giving Krishna katha, the pure taste, the love that you feel by cooking for Krishna. But ultimately it's a cooking activity, or Bhagavad Gita reading or Kirtan itself is giving you pleasure. So that abhilasha also, when you leave, then you become pure devotee. That's Paramahamsa. Prabhupada calls anya abhilasha shunya means Paramahamsa. Paramahamsa he calls it directly. So here at this point the constitutional position, because the living entity spiritual world, he is happy while Krishna is happy. He's like the stomach and the hand. The reconstitutionalization of that whole thing, where the hand is again connected to the stomach, and the pleasure of the stomach itself gives the pleasure to the hand. That is known as establishing oneself in the constitutional position. So the moment anya abhilashita shunya happens, that means you renounce even the ruchi part, that it is asakti. That stage is definitely the stage where you have been liberated from the material world and you have become a pure devotee of Krishna, 100% pure devotee of Krishna. So this is it. And then of course bhava and other stages that we will not discuss. But jnana mishra bhakti. So in jnana mishra bhakti, as I said, the whole idea is to get out of the pain of the material world. I want to get out of the pain. I want to get out of the pain. So I understand shastras. I become very strongly convinced by convincing myself. Very strong conviction. But when that I remove that jnana part or that liberation, I don't want liberation, but the conviction remains, only the conviction part remains. So when only the conviction part remains and that liberation part goes away, when the jnana itself will burn away the jnana part itself. So it will just remove that part itself. So the desire for getting free from misery, I don't care about miseries, my Lord, but I have a strongly firm conviction that I have to do devotion. So the purpose of doing devotion, having the firm conviction, is to get out of the misery of the material world, or to get mukti. But when that mukti thing itself is gone, and what is remaining is only the firm conviction, and that firm conviction becomes nishtha. Extremely strong conviction, faith. I have to do this. I have to do devotion. No, nothing can take me. And he already has strong knowledge also as a basis, and nishtha. So the desire for jnana mishra bhakti was very firm conviction for getting out of the material world. For the material world is full of suffering. Now that thing is gone. I don't want to get out of the material world, but I have strong firm conviction of doing devotion. So firm conviction of doing devotion to get out of the material world, remove the part, get out of the material world, or mukti, remove that part. So firm conviction remains. That firm conviction is nishtha. So that nishtha, ruchi, asakti. I'm so sorry I was saying very heavily, because many times we have a misunderstanding that a devotee who has got ruchi stage, who is very much having taste for Krishna's, cooking for Krishna, for giving pravachan about Krishna, then we say that is karma yogi. We call him karma yogi. And it's very offensive to that devotee when we call him karma yogi. It is not karma yogi. He's a very high stage of bhakti actually. You have to understand that. So that's the only point. So they think that if only at the point of asakti a person can be known as bhakti yoga. Or sometimes they mistake this nishkama karma mishra to be bhakti yoga. That this devotee also says that I don't care which service you give me, I'll do all services. Whatever you give me. But actually this person neither has taste for that service, neither he has any kind of desire to please Krishna. So they say this is bhakti yoga. Nishkama karma mishra bhakti. So that they think that this is bhakti yoga, or they think that ruchi is some kind of sakama or some kind of this thing. So then they mistake this, and then this becomes offensive actually. Of course, when you look at sakama karma mishra bhakti, that is definitely offensive to Krishna, because here the person is actually trying to, he has ulterior motives in this sakama karma mishra bhakti, but still he's a bhakta. He's still superior to all these karma yogas who have actually given up away their fruits of action. Though he has not given up the fruits of action, still he's a superior category. He's the next category after karma yoga category basically. So even though that's the glory of bhakti yoga, that's the greatness of bhakti yoga. So this is what we can understand.